Broadcasting live, brother. Welcome back to Talkin Boxing with Billy C on the mighty TPSradio.net, brother. What you gonna do, brother?
And we're back. You're listening to the Talkin Boxing with Billy C show. Hey, don't forget, if you're heading south, if you're in the north and you're heading south, don't forget to stop by St. Simon's Island, Georgia, and check out my man Sal Cenicola's Delicioso Italian restaurant. It's right in St. Simon's, and it'll take you about 10 minutes out of your way off of I-95. Check it out, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man Sal a call, 912-268-2328. That's 912-268-2328. Find out why I eat at least a half a dozen pizzas, why I swing by St. Simon's every time I head south. And speaking of Sal Rocky Cenicola, joining me right now is the man himself. What's up, Sal?
Hey, Billy, it's Sal. How are you, my friend?
Not too bad, brother. Not too bad. Just talking about your pizza. Every time I start talking about it, I start thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, man, I got to get down there, man. But
you do?
I do. Hey, well, we got some big fights coming up, so you never know. But let's talk a little about some fights that took place this past weekend. Did you get a chance to see the Terry Flanigan, Derry Matthews fight?
I did see that fight. It was a very good English fight. It was good. It was good.
I liked it. I like Terry Flanigan. I see a lot of positives, but the one thing I noticed, and I was curious to get your opinion on. First of all, he's lacking power, so I think that will. Power. Yeah, I think that'll hurt him. As he fights the upper echelon fighters in the lightweight division. But, he tried to incorporate a body attack during that fight, Sal. And what I saw, now I'm not a trainer by any stretch of the imagination, but, when I see fighters work the body, it seems to me like they work the body, they sustain a body attack for a couple of rounds where they're basically, whether they're going to give up the round or whatever, but they're constantly focusing on the body so that it pays off dividends later in the fight. What I saw from Terry Flanigan's body attack was that he was purposely going after the body throughout the whole fight, but not enough to really hurt Derry Matthews. Like he would land a flush shot right in the breadbasket, and then he would leave the body work for a while. What's your thoughts on how he approached his body attack on Saturday?
Well, you're right. When you are trying to do a body attack, you have to sustain it round after round. The whole process incorporates your strategy throughout a fight and thinking on what you're going to do to bring your opponent's hands down and tire him out, weaken his legs, make his belly into jelly. I like that, belly into jelly. And basically, it definitely is a sustained attack. It's not just one round or two rounds. Unless you drop them early with a shot to the liver or to the solar plexus, that's crippling enough right there, sure. But you do have to wear him down. It's so funny, when I was on the All-Army boxing team, we would train and do a drill. We would stand toe-to-toe, and we would punch between the belt line and the shoulders and just do a body attack, straight sprint, and that's it. Just sustain it, just to get it done. And I didn't see him try to do that. In fact, it was rather, each round looked like the previous round, and it was a good fight. I liked Flanigan too, and it was predictable, but it was evident after a couple rounds it was just going to be the same old. There wasn't enough power in the fight to drop or stop either opponent, in my opinion, at the time.
Yeah, I agree, and that was what my point was about. If you're gonna wait for an opening where you get a nice solid body shot, if you had the knockout power, then I could see it crippling a fighter. But if you're trying to do it as a wear down tactic, you kind of gotta dedicate a round or two to a nonstop body attack, I would think, right?
You don't just periodically go to the body. If your strategy is, guess what? You could really slow down and stop an opponent just by, first of all, you get him to think twice before he goes in. well, this guy's giving me body shots all day and night. And then you can play with his mind. You can feint to the body and go up to the head. You could do so many things. That's why the body attack is really part of the strategy that is long lost art of, and not utilized by a lot of fighters that could benefit and go further in their careers by utilizing it. And they're, as we used to say in the amateur days, they're headhunters. But it's so funny. I was equally, if not more, entertained by the English broadcasters who were commentating on the fight. They were. I love the one that said, "It kissed the whiskers of Flanigan."
I love those guys. I love those guys. They don't put. They're pretty hard on their fighters. I mean, they don't. Everything here. You hear a lot of the commentating that goes on here in the States, and nobody wants to offend anybody. It's like everything's so politically correct. It's sickening sometimes. But the guys over there, man, from Fox Nation, they don't pull any punches at all. If the guy's stinking up the place, they say it. So I agree with you. They do. Manny Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley, is a big fight that's coming up in a couple of weeks. And, you and I had a chance to talk a little bit about that fight the other day. And, it's starting to get closer. And, Manny Pacquiao's been in the news, not for good things, some comments he made about the gay community. And, he's trying to focus on his political career as well. And all of a sudden, he's got this big fight that he claims is going to be his last fight. But he's picking a guy that's arguably a pound-for-pound top fighter in Timothy Bradley, who incidentally is now working with Teddy Atlas. And it seems to have worked. Timothy Bradley looked pretty good in his last fight. What's your early thoughts on this? I know we're going to have a chance to talk about this fight in the coming weeks, but what's your early thoughts on this fight and the significance that is on both of these fighters? I mean, it seems like Timothy Bradley's in a win-win situation, and Manny Pacquiao is in you better win or else you're in a lose-lose situation. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, kudos to Pacquiao for choosing Bradley. He could have chosen probably a few softer opponents, but Pacquiao is Manny Pacquiao, and maybe he still thinks he has what it takes. And Bradley, he's been a journeyman. He's been a damn good one, and he's had glory days, and he could still sustain a good level of success in the fight game. I think Pacquiao's era is about to end, and everybody, including you and I, during the Mayweather fight, we always were expecting the Pacquiao of old to be there to show up in front of Mayweather. It didn't happen. That Pacquiao's been long, long gone. And I might get some fans upset about that, but he's been long gone. When you fight, and when you're serious, and you step in the ring, and you are the best, you want to be the best, you don't fool around with politics. You're opening up a whole can of worms. You do these things when you're seeing past your fight years, your fight career. And unless you are hungry, unless you are dedicated, unless you are focused on what's in front of you today, you've got to make sure, because the future is now in the fight game, and that will yield to the later future, or to the latter. And you got to concentrate. You got to be in front of your opponent. I think it's a big fight that he selected Bradley for that comeback. And like we were saying, Bradley has everything to gain. He doesn't have as much to lose. This is a winner or bust for Pacquiao. And we'll see what the shoulder says. We'll see what his mindset says. We'll see a lot of things. It's going to be a very defining moment once that bell rings in round one. Bradley has every opportunity to rise the occasion and sustain a good level of a performance and get himself and sustain himself on the level of the top grade in that weight division for a long time. And Pacquiao, like I said, the only other fight after this would probably be pulling Mayweather out of retirement, like you claimed when the first Mayweather fight was over.
Yeah, I was just going to remind you about that, Sal. So I'm glad
you were the one. You told me.
I know.
You read it to me.
I know.
Go ahead.
And I think that it would be hard if Floyd decides to come back, which, he doesn't have to, he really doesn't.
Yeah.
But if he decides to come back, if and this is a big if Manny Pacquiao does beat Timothy Bradley decisively, it would set up the reason to have a rematch. You know what I mean? And I think that Floyd feels very comfortable that he could beat Manny again. So and in order to get Floyd to come out of retirement, he's going to have to make a couple of $100 million. The poor guy. How can he afford anything less than that?
Bingo.
So So one last thing. On the same day, we're going to be seeing a heavyweight fight that's actually for a title, but it puts two young heavyweights against each other. And even though one of them happens to have a title, Charles Martin, who beat Cesar Glaskov for the IBF title back in January when Glaskov injured his leg and couldn't continue, and Charles Martin ended up with a belt around his waist, and they closed the deal to fight Anthony Joshua. It's taking place in April 9th. What's your thoughts on this one? Big fight for the heavyweight division, I think.
A big fight for the big guys. I mean, Joshua is a big guy, and so is Martin. They got a little power, and Anthony Joshua is still young in his career. Even though he's had a great level of success in his amateur career, and he's undefeated as a heavyweight contender. I think he was a silver world champion, and he was a gold medalist in the Olympics. And he's had a great level of success, and he's run undefeated against opponents, hopefully getting better and better caliber of opponents. He will surely be facing one of his strongest opponents in Charles Martin, who's had probably more amateur experience than Joshua, but not as much as the level of success as Joshua. And Charles Martin had a few more fights. So I think that it's going to be a very good fight. I think both heavyweights have power. I think both heavyweights have about the same chin. We'll see. I think a lot of the people might be thinking that Joshua could beat this guy, Martin. And let's face it, too. I give Martin a lot of credit. He's going over to enemy territory to fight and defend for the first time his IBF championship belt. And I think that says a lot about, hey, rise to the occasion, looking to fight all the guys that are supposedly the best in the contendership at the time. And I think you got that in Joshua. He's up and coming. I thought back of the Spinks era when Leon Spinks fought Ali in his 7th pro fight, and he rose the occasion against a aging and ailing Muhammad Ali at that time. So we'll see. It's going to be a good fight. I think Charles Martin as a southpaw is going to probably give him different angles to look at. Anthony Joshua, he's young. He hasn't tasted defeat. So he's got that going for him. I mean, I remember I fought my 25th amateur fight. I fought Sean Doyle, a 4-time European champ, double champ of this, that, and everything else. He had over 200 fights. But I never knew defeat in the sense where I wasn't going to lose to him. And that's why I think Anthony Joshua has this level of momentum from his amateur to his professional to his hometown to all this other stuff, where he's going to go in with a wave of momentum and feel he's unbeatable. And part of the fight game, as you and I know it, is mental and psychology. And if he's feeling he's unbeatable, we're going to see what happens the first time he gets his bell rung. If he's going to fall apart and say, hey, this is not what I expected, or if he's going to say, hey, I'm ready for this, bring it on. I'm going to come back with more and harder and put you down.
It's going to be interesting because I think that Charles Martin, I agree with you. I give him credit. But on the other hand, it was the best financial move for him, too, because he wasn't going to make the money here in the States fighting some, tomato can that he would have fought versus going over to England and being a main event in a title fight where he's coming in on basically he's the champ, so he's got to be on the A side. And Anthony Joshua seems to have more pressure on him for those reasons you just said. He's the hometown guy. He's undefeated. He's in front of his home crowd. I mean, next thing he's fighting for a world title. All of a sudden, you start thinking, wait a minute, this guy's 26 years old. They were moving him along, and now it seems like he's thrust into the limelight on a huge stage, and maybe that's in Charles Martin's favor.
It could be, and you make excellent points. In fact, we should follow up, and you and I should talk about point counterpoint on what does each man have to have as a psyche going into the fight. What are the trade-offs? What are the pluses and minuses? How do they have to have the whole thing psychologically prepared as well as physically prepared for this fight? And I think what you just said was right on. I mean, one of the big bait and the big reasons that Charles Martin's taken this fight is because he's not yet known and solidified as a heavyweight champion to a level where he's going to draw a big crowd fighting some other contender that's known a little less than he is. But gosh, you go over to England and you fight Anthony Joshua, who's like a hero over there. You're going to sell tickets. You're going to stir the interest. You're going to feed the fodder. And they use that in England, don't they? And it's going to be a big draw. And I think, as you said, the Joshua mindset, he's got the pressure on him. And Martin, to his credit, he's going to be going over there, and he doesn't have the worry that, hey, I know where I'm going, but and I don't know the ending of this, because he's gonna feel like he's got nothing to lose in a sense except the title belt. He's going over there for a big payday. He's going over to knock out an undefeated fighter, and he could do that. He's got power. They both have power. So we're going to see what happens with the battle of the chins and attrition.
Yeah, you're right. Any heavyweight, you would hope to have some power, and both of them have questionable chins. Anthony Joshua has been rocked. He's been down, but he's still undefeated. Hey, Sal, over the last couple of weeks, you've been involved on the big stage, I guess, and I'm a little jealous. It's something I've always wanted to do. But real quick, why don't you tell us, man? You're kicking up an acting career. What's the deal?
Well, it's very humbling. And when I was co-managed by Sylvester Stallone with Richie Giacchetti, Sylvester Stallone wanted me to do Boo Boo Mancini's movie that he produced with CBS called Heart of a Champion, or Heart. They wound up casting Doug McKeon. But, I was bit by it back then, and I took some acting lessons at HB Studios under Bill Hickey, William Hickey, and a couple things. And then I did some showcases on Theater Row. In fact, I played polo in Hatful of Rain. And it was a great opportunity. I loved it. But, I had to get on through reality and career and other things to make money at the time. And then down here with my sustained running of the pizzeria and the great level of success we've had, and I had an opportunity. There was a casting agent, and very nice lady, Mary Ellen Aviano. She saw me making pizza, and she said, we might have some role for you in a Ben Affleck movie. And I went through an audition process and everything else. It went very well. And Ben Affleck did a spectacular job producing and directing, along with some Academy Award-winning directors, the movie that's going to come out later this year that I'm very excited about, called Live by Night. And I had a role in there. I'm not allowed to talk about it, but it was great. Gave me a little bit of the adrenaline shot that I liked in the acting business. And shortly after that, one of the directors saw me and had me do something in Savannah a week later. I did that. And then here we have the Island Players, a little play group down here on St. Simon's Island. And I was asked to audition for a role. Get this, you ready for this? I played a butcher out of Queens, New York. It's called the Cemetery Club. And the play is a very nice play called the Cemetery Club. I play Sam the Butcher, Samuel Katz. I'm a butcher who's a widower. And I have an interest in friendship with 3 widows. And I can't say too much about it right now, but it's great. I love it. I've been doing it all month, and we have a great turnout. A lot of good people looking at the play. I'm going to do this Friday and this Sunday's show as well, and this will wrap it up. But yeah, I love it, Billy. I love it. It's great, and I'm just glad I could still remember my lines after 150 fights and 30-something years of boxing.
There you go.
And I did.
Well, I'm glad you're doing that. Like I said, I'm jealous, man. I wish I was there. I would definitely be trying to weasel in, but I'm glad to hear that, and hopefully you could show us some footage of that at some point. And lastly, next week we're not going to be doing the show next week because we're preparing for the kickoff of a new show that we're doing, the Billy C Morning Show, and you're going to be a pretty big part of that. We start on the 28th in the morning. We're going to switch some times. We are going to be able to talk about other things in addition to, of course, boxing. But what's your quick thoughts on that? I mean, I know you and I have had a lot of discussions about, different directions we can go and different topics we can talk about, and kind of let what's happening in the sporting world and the world itself dictate, what we veer off on when boxing gets a little slow. But for a couple of minutes, what's your thoughts on that whole model that we've discussed, and how do you think it's going to fare?
Billy, I want to congratulate you. I know you worked so hard on your radio show, and notice I didn't say weekly radio show.
Yeah,
and
I had to change it. I had to change it for you just so you wouldn't, lie to your patrons when they come in there. Now at least you'll promote it as a daily show because you'll be on there. So.
I look at all that you've achieved and all that you've sustained and done, and with your loyal fan base, with the Billy C Boxing, and the radio show, and your marketing and your website, and it's beautiful. It's great, and to have the opportunity that was presented to you is phenomenal. And I think you've got to attribute all your years of success and growth with the Billy C Boxing program and the fan base as your launching pad, as your brand that sustained the level of success that has lifted and has given you further opportunities. And I'm just very grateful that I'm going to have an opportunity to go along with it. And not only are we going to talk about whatever's happening in the boxing world, but we will be able to talk a little bit more about the other things that are happening in the world of sports, whether it's going to be the New York Yankees or baseball or football. We could even mention the Giants, anything we want to talk about that happens to be tennis, sports world in general. And I think it's going to be a whole other spectrum of what we could go down and evolve and take it to even a higher level, along with your content with the boxing world. So I think it's unbelievable, and I'm excited. I'm so motivated to help and to be contributing to whatever we want to talk about in the world of sports. And so thank you for having me on board. And we look forward to a great level of success. And I know your fan base is going to grow with us and also enjoy the different topics as well as the core boxing that we're going to still talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it very well. I appreciate that, and all the accolades I appreciate. I wish we made a few extra dollars every now and then, but I guess you can't ask for it all, I guess. But I think that we are going to do well with the morning show. We've done a morning show before. We had a lot of success with it, and I think it's time to keep things fresh, and this is going to be an area I think we're all going to enjoy. We're going to all have a little fun with it, and I think the listeners are going to enjoy it too, because it'll be fun for everybody, sort of like the circus, So
absolutely,
and then when we get together, it's kind of like a circus anyway. So we'll try to make it our best, right?
Well, we're going to try, and I think that it's going to be a great level here. And as I said, I think I look forward to getting together because I still want to do these fights down here. We got a great year lineup. I mean, there's some big fights happening, and I was thinking about the level of what's happening here when we talk about the Pacquiao and Mayweather era. I think the twilight is definitely evident, but when we've seen the last several big fights that have passed us in the last couple of months, and what's going to happen this year with some big fights, I think we're upon a new era of boxing. I really feel that there is some of the throwback of what of the competition that was of old and the sustained interest, and I think some big things are going to start happening with boxing again.
But you know what the big problem is? They don't fight each other. So you get a fighter that rises to the top. He shows promise, or she shows promise. They start to develop a fan base. People want to see them. And then what do we get? We get, him fighting, the deli guy from up the street or something. It's terrible.
Yeah. You're talking about me, deli man?
No. But I'm just saying, it's terrible. Not that the other side of the coin is a lot of these young fans expect them to fight the toughest fight out there next. And I'm not suggesting that, but I mean, it's either or. They're either fighting a cupcake or they're fighting the best. There's nothing in between, and that's what's missing. Because those in between fights are usually the entertaining, tough fights that everybody walks away going, "Oh man, was that a good fight?" And that's what we need. But until that happens, I think we're in trouble. So.
Well, you said that the meat of the matter. And those were the fights that were evolved. Those are the fights that...
Are you there? Did I lose you?
No, you got me. You hear me?
Yeah. What are you, sneezing?
Yeah.
What are you trying to sneeze?
No, I was doing an impression of what it's like to have my mouth cut.
Then all of a sudden have somebody come and put a handkerchief over your mouth. Oh, yeah, okay. Now I get it. But go ahead. What are you saying?
I really think that it's going to have to be the managers and the promoters that want to take the time to cultivate the good young raw talent and give them a level of good competition that's going to evolve, going to create the excitement again in the weight division, that are going to bring the fighters back, the fight fans back. And I think it's just going to be a matter of time till we get the right scenario, the right combination. And I think we have some early seeds that are going to grow, but we have to keep watering it because not that I'm being a gardener, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We need the right people in the right positions to make this game rise up again. And I think we have some of the early seeds. Let's see if we can keep watering them and sustain a good level of interest from the fan base of people out there that are die-hard boxing fans, and also create the interest with the younger fans. That this is the way that the boxing game evolved. This is the history of the boxing game. That's part of what our level, or that you and I, our school back then gave us the information of what boxing is about and how it evolved and what's going on. I think it's just going to need more education to be out there and let people know that this is how this game has evolved over the years.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sal, I appreciate your insight, and like I said, we'll be off next week, but we'll be kicking off the Billy C. Morning Show Monday morning, March 28th, and you'll be there, right?
Oh, I will be there, and we'll have some great material to talk about. I'm all excited, and it's going to be a kickoff that we haven't seen since the Super Bowl.
There we go. It's going to be it's going to be an extravaganza.
We mentioned another sport.
Yeah, there we go. All right, my man. Well, listen, have a good week, and I'll talk to you later in the week.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Bill. You take care.
All right, brother. Take care.